Let's look at two men. They lived in the exact same era, worked hard, and loved their families, but their lives ended up looking completely different. The first man did everything society asked of him. He earned a PhD, secured a stable government job, and worked for a steady paycheck his entire adult life. When he died, he left behind a pile of unpaid bills. The second man dropped out of school in the 8th grade. He ignored conventional advice, built his own portfolio, and eventually became one of the wealthiest men in Hawaii. These completely opposite results didn't come down to luck or natural talent. They came down to a single difference in what each man believed about money. Author Robert Kiyosaki grew up with a front-row seat to both of these lives. The highly educated man was his real father, his poor dad. The wealthy dropout was his best friend's father, his rich dad. Watching them, Kiyosaki realized that studying hard to get a safe job is a specific operating system. And for most people, it's an operating system perfectly designed to generate lifelong debt. The trap starts with a very normal human emotion, fear. The fear of not being able to pay for survival pushes almost everyone into seeking the immediate safety of a steady paycheck. This diagram shows the loop Kiyosaki calls the rat race. You get a job to ease the fear. You earn a paycheck, and you buy a few nice things. But as you earn more, your lifestyle expenses automatically rise to match that new income, pulling you right back into a state of fear. You can hear the trap in the advice the two fathers gave. Poor dad told his son to study hard so he could find a good company to work for. Rich dad told him to study hard so he could find a good company to buy. That distinction forms the core thesis of Kiyosaki's observations. The poor and middle class spend their lives working for money. The rich make money work for them. Escaping this cycle requires a complete pivot. You have to stop trading your limited time to cover rising expenses and start owning the very machines that generate the wages. To make that pivot, you have to unlearn the way society defines financial terms. You must strictly differentiate between a true asset and a liability disguised as an asset. We can visualize this by tracking how cash behaves. In this simple cash flow statement, an asset does exactly one thing. It deposits cash directly into your pocket, whether you work that day or not. A liability does the exact opposite. It pulls cash out of your pocket. If an item requires constant feeding to maintain, it belongs in this category. This brings us to the hardest pill to swallow for the middle class, the family home. Your primary residence demands mortgage payments, property taxes, insurance, and constant maintenance. Because it continuously takes money out of your bank account, mathematically, your house is a liability. True assets are things like dividend-paying stocks, rental properties that generate positive cash flow, and businesses that run on their own. These generate income without requiring your daily physical labor. Your wealth isn't determined by the size of the salary your boss pays you. It is measured entirely by the volume of independent, cash-producing assets sitting in your portfolio. Rich Dad summarized this strategy with a simple phrase: mind your own business. He wasn't talking about your profession or your employer's company. He was talking about your personal asset column. Millions pour decades of their lives into climbing a corporate ladder. They trade their best waking hours to increase the value of a company, where the ultimate financial beneficiary is the owner, not them. You don't have to quit your job tomorrow. The pragmatic move is to keep your daily profession to cover your survival expenses, while quietly pouring your leftover time and capital into building your own asset column on the side. You keep building that column until you cross a very specific mathematical threshold, the exact moment the income generated by your assets exceeds your monthly living expenses. Once that passive income covers your bills, your daily labor becomes entirely optional. That is the literal definition of financial independence. But real estate and index funds are just vehicles. Kiyosaki argues that the most powerful asset you will ever possess is your own financial intelligence. Traditional schools are incredibly efficient at training obedient employees. They fail completely at teaching basic accounting, investing, or the laws of the market. You see the result of that education in how people handle financial hurdles. When poor dad saw something expensive, he stated a fact: "I can't afford it," instantly shutting down his brain. Rich dad asked a question: "How can I afford it?" forcing his mind to actively search for a solution. When you train your mind to understand cash flow and markets, you start spotting lucrative deals in the exact same neighborhoods and stock charts where an untrained mind sees absolutely nothing. A rigorously educated mind acts as the ultimate engine. It identifies the opportunities, negotiates the terms, and manages the physical wealth that follows. We live in a society that programs people to seek safety, avoid risk, and remain obedient employees. Meanwhile, the wealthy are playing by a different rulebook, entirely focused on acquiring assets. So you have to ask yourself, what exactly is your money doing while you sleep? Answering that question requires continuous self-education, and that's exactly why we created ThinkShelf. We take the world's best financial and philosophical books and break them down into actionable lessons. Hit the subscribe button right now. And before you go, drop a comment down below and tell us honestly, are you operating with a poor dad mindset or a rich dad mindset today? The next book we break down might be the exact intellectual asset you need to buy your freedom. We'll see you in the next one.